In July of 1969, a farmer in central Colombia fell violently ill after a strange encounter on his property. His condition rapidly deteriorated, presenting doctors with a baffling medical mystery that defied all known science. Despite their best efforts, the farmer ultimately succumbed to the mysterious illness. In the years that followed, his death became one of the most well-documented instances of a fatality linked to close contact with a UFO. On the night of July 4, 1969, 53-year-old Arcesio Bermudez was hosting a gathering at his farm in Analima, near Bogota, Colombia. 13 people were in attendance, including family, friends, and some of their children. While the adults enjoyed each other's company inside the house, the children played outside. At around 8 p.m. that night, the children burst indoors, claiming a strange object was approaching from the sky. Moments later, the dining room lit up as if it were daytime. In response to this bizarre sight, Arcesio and the other adults quickly ran outside. What followed would change Arcesio's life forever. Upon stepping outside, Arcesio's attention was immediately drawn to an extremely bright, spherical object hovering close to the ground. Despite everyone urging him not to, he decided to investigate since it was on his property. His friends and family watched anxiously as he walked toward the object, eventually getting within 20 feet of it. As his eyes adjusted to the intense light, he exclaimed that he saw what appeared to be a silhouette inside the object. Then, in the blink of an eye, it vanished from sight. Following the incident, everyone at the farm was completely baffled by what they had just witnessed. Arcesio, however, sensed something was wrong. Immediately after the object disappeared, he felt very cold despite the warm summer night and had suddenly experienced severe chest pain. His family and friends initially thought he was simply in shock from the extraordinary event, but this would soon prove to be much more serious. Early the next morning after the encounter, Arcesio was rushed to the doctor. He was extremely dehydrated, had a weak heartbeat, and strangest of all, his body temperature was near hypothermic levels, as if he were freezing to death. Over the following days, Arcesio's condition only worsened. Despite not having eaten anything, he was constantly vomiting a dark substance and continued to feel extremely cold. He was taken to various doctors who provided different medications and remedies, but nothing seemed to help him. On July 8th, just 4 days after the encounter, Arcesio succumbed to his unknown illness. But the mystery didn't end there. In the days following Arcesio's untimely death, rumors of his otherworldly encounter spread rapidly around Analima. Maria Bermudez, Arcesio's niece, who witnessed the incident, revealed that his case had drawn the attention of many suspicious figures. In a later documentary, Maria recounted how shortly after Arcesio's death, 2 men claiming to be from a NASA-funded group visited his farm. They sought permission from the family to examine his body before burial, but one of Arcesio's brothers refused the request as he felt uneasy about their intentions. Other groups made similar requests, but they were also denied every time. Despite this, 5 years after Arcesio died, his gravesite was found disturbed, and his coffin, along with his body, was missing. There were whispers around town that agents from America had exhumed the corpse late into the night and transported it away in a truck, but these claims were never substantiated. To this day, Arcesio's body remains missing, shrouding the incident in even greater mystery. The July 4, 1969 encounter that led to the death of Arcesio Bermudez is often cited by UFO investigators as the most credible encounter in Colombia's history. With so much evidence, even skeptics struggle to refute it. Over a dozen witnesses reported the same story, which was already compelling enough for many to believe. On top of this, several children who were present during the event were later asked to draw what they saw, and their drawings all matched. The strange illness that afflicted Arcesio after the incident further adds credence to the story. Many believe there are simply too many anomalous factors in this case to be ignored. While there could potentially be rational explanations for some aspects, certain elements seem to defy all logic. For this reason, the case of Arcesio Bermudez is often regarded as a true example of a fatal encounter of the third kind. In April of 1991, a successful music executive met an untimely and mysterious end in his Seattle apartment. When police arrived at his residence days after he was last heard from, they were confronted with an extraordinarily bizarre scene. The story took an even stranger turn as the events of the week leading up to his death were revealed. Investigators discovered that the man eerily predicted his own demise after a chilling encounter with a witch. In 1991, 35-year-old Christopher Case worked as a music executive for Muzak Holdings, a company based in Seattle, Washington. On April 11th of that year, he boarded a plane to San Francisco for a meeting with fellow music industry executives, as he often did for his job. Little did Christopher know, this ordinary business trip would soon turn into a nightmare. Though he had never believed in curses, a chance encounter in San Francisco would alter his perspective forever. On April 12th, the day after Christopher returned home to Seattle from San Francisco, he made several frantic phone calls to a few of his friends. One of these friends was Sammy Souder, who lived in North Carolina, where Christopher had previously worked as a radio broadcaster before relocating to Seattle. Sammy recounted that Christopher sounded very agitated over the phone. In a panic, he told her about a terrifying encounter he had while in San Francisco. According to Christopher, he met a woman who shared his passion for ancient music at a company dinner, and they immediately hit it off. What began as a discussion about their love of music soon turned into a long conversation. As the night progressed, it became clear to Christopher that the woman was interested in him. In his own words, she attempted to get him to be enamored of her. Christopher saw their conversation as purely platonic, however, so he didn't return her affections. He tried to excuse himself from the conversation, but it was very apparent to him that his rejection had angered the woman. Christopher proclaimed that in a fit of rage, the woman furiously informed him that she was a witch. Before he left dinner, she had told him that she had placed a curse on him and that he would soon die. Sammy tried to get more information out of him, but he was too agitated and incoherent. He hung up the phone soon after. This strange phone call left Sammy perplexed. She had known Christopher for over 10 years, and he had always been a mentally stable individual. The frantic behavior he displayed was very uncharacteristic, as he had never had an outburst like that in all the time she knew him. Furthermore, Christopher didn't believe in occult practices like witchcraft, so it was puzzling to Sammy that he was even taking this alleged curse so seriously. Little did she know, however, the curse was about to come true. By April 16th of 1991, no one had heard back from Christopher for days. Sammy had tried to reach him several times after their conversation, but her calls went unanswered. Other friends also couldn't get in touch with him, and he hadn't shown up for work. King County police officers were dispatched to his apartment after receiving multiple calls, but his door was locked and no one answered. Since police had no concrete reason to suspect anything bad happened to him, they had no choice but to leave. On April 18th, however, a friend of Christopher's, whose name wasn't disclosed, called the police again and urged them to investigate one more time. Although police believed this was going to be a simple wellness check at most, nothing could have prepared them for the disturbing scene they would encounter in Christopher's apartment. Once police arrived at Christopher's unit, they checked his door and realized it was unlocked. Inside, they immediately noticed lines of salt poured along the base of the walls throughout the apartment, a practice believed to offer protection against evil spirits. Several crucifixes were also scattered around the apartment. There was no sign of Christopher, however, until the police entered the bathroom. There, they found his lifeless body in the bathtub. The state in which Christopher was discovered was extremely bizarre. He was fully clothed and leaning upright against the wall. Upon closer inspection, it appears as if he had died while in a praying position. What was even stranger was that there was no obvious cause of death, nor anything in the apartment to suggest what might have killed him. Following the discovery of Christopher Case's body, news of his strange and mysterious death quickly spread throughout Seattle. Family and friends were eager for answers, but detectives soon confirmed that there was no evidence of foul play and stated they had nothing to go on other than Christopher's alleged encounter. An autopsy was eventually conducted, but it only deepened the mystery surrounding his death. According to the autopsy report, Christopher had died of acute myocarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart muscle. Those who knew him found this bizarre because Christopher was a fitness enthusiast who exercised regularly, ate healthy, and maintained a low body fat percentage. Although heart problems can occur in healthy individuals, they are most often associated with other conditions such as obesity. Christopher had no history of heart issues, and his healthy habits made him extremely low risk for heart disease. Considering these factors, it was rather perplexing that he experienced a fatal case of myocarditis, completely out of the blue. The most likely cause of this kind of heart inflammation in a healthy individual is a viral infection, but the autopsy found no such evidence. Furthermore, acute myocarditis is typically painful, and even with a sudden onset, it usually takes a few days to a few weeks to cause heart failure. Given his obsession with health, Christopher surely must have realized that something was wrong. This begs the question, if he had been experiencing discomfort for hours or potentially even days prior to his death, why didn't he reach out for help? To his family, it didn't make sense that while presumably experiencing severe heart discomfort from myocarditis, Christopher didn't call anyone, but instead entered his bathtub, fully clothed, to pray before succumbing to the illness. These did not appear to be the actions of someone suffering a medical emergency. Police initially speculated that Christopher might have been under the influence of something, but his autopsy and toxicology report came back clean. This left investigators baffled, as there was seemingly no logical explanation for how Christopher ended up the way he did. The bizarre nature of Christopher Case's death and the events leading up to it ignited much speculation in the years following. One theory was that Christopher developed acute myocarditis as a result of the nocebo effect. The nocebo effect, which is the opposite of the more well-known placebo effect, is a phenomenon where a strong belief that something will cause harm actually results in harm. For example, if a person is falsely informed that they have been exposed to a toxin that causes a certain disease, they may start experiencing symptoms of that disease. The nocebo effect is not well understood, however, and has not been directly linked to any deaths. Another theory, which many, including Sammy Sauter, subscribed to, was that Christopher may have indirectly died from fright. Sammy believed that the extreme stress Christopher experienced after allegedly being cursed was so intense that it could have triggered the sudden heart inflammation that ended his life. While this theory may seem plausible in such a strange scenario, death from fear is extremely rare and practically unheard of in young, healthy individuals such as Christopher. Furthermore, many argue that he wasn't exposed to stress for long enough to cause such a severe instance of myocarditis. But even if Christopher had succumbed to stress or the nocebo effect, the mystery remains as to why he was found upright in his bathtub. These theories also fail to explain another bizarre aspect of his case, which is why he took the curse so seriously to begin with. Christopher was described as level-headed by those who knew him and had never suffered from any mental health issues. His family was insistent that such an extreme reaction was uncharacteristic of him, as he was not known to fly off the rails. They were adamant that Christopher would not have taken the supposed witch's curse so seriously unless he had very good reason to suspect it was true. As such, some believe that Christopher really did come into contact with forces beyond our understanding.